We've tried very hard for quite a few years here to try and find a structure that would work from a capital programme point of view. When you get right down to it, it's a very complicated financing model you need for a project like this, and try as we might, the framework we were trying to operate within made it impossible to fully fund the project. Hitachi had spent, to their maximum, more than $2 billion to develop the project, but in order to complete it, we needed to find an investment model that would be attracting enough investors to fund the construction, and we couldn't do that.
What price would you have needed to have been guaranteed by the government to make the project financially viable?
Yeah, actually, it's amazing. A lot of people have asked about the price of the power. It wasn't about that. We, at the end of the day, we had offered a pretty attractive, I consider a very commercially attractive strike price. But it became a conversation about where are the investors, where do we find the necessary capital. It wasn't really about the commercial attractiveness of the offering. It was more about the structure that would attract investment. I think it's fair to say that the government tried hard within the framework of the government support package and other things to find something that they thought would be attractive to the investment community. And in the event, it wasn't. And we worked together to try and improve that. Government, of course, played their part. They increased the amount of funding they were prepared to provide. Hitachi, as I say, had invested to the maximum, and then we were left with a gap, Ian, that we just could not find a way to resolve. And the only way I think it gets resolved is by a different capital structure.
So what would that different capital structure look like?
Well, there are a number of things, and quite honestly, this is not necessarily about a nuclear project. It's about any project that runs over a number of years with a high upfront capital loading. So, for example, if you're speaking to investors, the typical institutional investors are looking for a dividend from their capital and some as it goes in. Our prospect was that they would put their capital in but not receive any dividend until the project was complete. That has got very unattractive characteristics for some of the main institutional investors. So the reason the government have been looking at other models, such as the regulated asset model, is that's a route by which investors could be earning a return on their capital as they're injecting it.
Doesn't this experience, though, and that with Toshiba up in Cumbria, really prove that only governments have the financial muscle to be able to pull off projects of this magnitude?
Yeah, I think against the structure that's in play right now, I think you're right. It does suggest that. Now, having said that, the Toshiba decision was a different one for a different set of circumstances and based on experiences they had elsewhere. We don't have those kind of operational concerns, but we certainly, we've heard from the investment community. We've heard what they can do and what they won't do. And so for these large infrastructure investments, I think you're right. I think it means that either government have to be prepared to put much more behind it, or they have to develop a different funding model, such as the regulated model that would allow investors to participate.